sound man extraordinaire?
Sound man took a walk for a little bit. I do not know.
Oh, okay.
I have nothing to do with him.
Okay.
I'm just a monkey to operate one of these cameras.
What's your name, brother?
Dennis.
Dennis, I'm Ray.
Nice to meet you, Ray.
I'm the last band tonight, the headlining band.
Good job.
Yeah.
Introduce a few family members, and then we'll get on with the entertainment here after we go over the storyteller. Okay, if you have a story that you'd like to share about, so we can do that at this time. Okay, we'd like to thank Eddie and Bob and their families for putting this event on. How about putting a round of applause out there for Eddie and Bob? Anytime you're ready, Eddie. Hey. Anytime. Get everybody in here. I'll go around the front.
Hey, welcome everybody. We are here for JoAnn. Mr. Soundman is my voice going outside of this room now, whereas there's still music in other rooms. If people in other rooms can hear me, make some noise. I said, if people in other rooms can hear me, make some noise. Hello. Is there anyone? Hello. Well, folks, we're going to start. Those of you who are here, I'm so glad you're here. In case some of you don't know me, I'm Eddie Korczynski, JoAnn's son. My wife is here, her other son and his family's here. The reason we're here, and I'm sure the reason many of you are here, is because JoAnn was a major figure in the Detroit blues music scene. She was here often. She was on this stage making announcements. She was just over there a year or so ago with Alberta Adams, just before Alberta passed. She was here a lot of times with a lot of wonderful people. Everybody's had a lot of great experiences. A lot of people have had a lot of great experiences in this space. And I do also want to thank Joe Van Deel for donating this wonderful space for us to all be here and enjoy a nice time and a nice show. Thanks, Joe. Okay. So, find that a little awkward. Everyone can see me still. So, I need to say a few things about the end of JoAnn's life. I know some of you may not know very much. I met a few people here who said they only just found out about her passing today. So she did pass on January 5th of this year, after a very brief time in the hospital, just for about 5 days. And in that time she was fading in and out, so we think that for her, she probably experienced it as just kind of one weird afternoon. And she really passed away at home. She wanted to live in her home to the end, and she pretty much did. She didn't want anyone else to know that she was dying of cancer. She got the diagnosis in early October, and well, we said she should maybe talk to some people, tell folks, but well, she just didn't want to, and she said, I don't want to, and I don't feel like it. So, okay, we respect her wishes. And so, unfortunately, I do know that a lot of you didn't get a chance to say goodbye to her And, well, since they're all here, you can all say goodbye to yourself. She's here with us in spirit, I'm sure. I can't say I know much more than she's with us here in spirit. She was a very spiritual person. You know, anyone who knew her knew that she was very, very kind, very caring, very generous. She was a really sweet person, and you know, there's a lot of discussions in our world about well, what does it take to get to heaven? And some people will say it's your faith, and some people will say it's your works. In her case, she had both. You know, her mind, her heart was open. She was loving. She was generous. She was a person of great faith, and she was also a person who did a lot. Part of the reason we're all here is because she did so much with what she had to help other people. She was incredibly generous with other musicians. She went out of her way to promote new music. And she loved Detroit. She was born in the city, and she was always a booster of Detroit. So it's also really great that we're able to gather in Detroit in this space. So, one way or the other, we know she's up in heaven. She went up as she departed from us. She hated funerals. Hated funerals. She was adamant. She did not want a funeral. So again, I'm sorry if any of you wished that there could have been a formal funeral for her. We're respecting her wishes, and she just said she didn't want a funeral. She would never tell us too much else other than she said that as my father's ashes had been, she wanted to be cremated and have her ashes scattered on our family vacation land in northern Michigan. We did that yesterday. There were about 15, 20 some of her closest family and friends who were able to gather. We had a lovely little ceremony, and told some more stories, scattered her ashes, and a few hours later we did see a perfect double rainbow appear in the sky as viewed from our cabin. Looking out, there was this just beautiful double rainbow, and the one side of it, you could just follow it. You could see it. It goes right down, right to the hilltop where we had just had the ceremony. So a few people got really nice pictures of it. It was really beautiful. So she went out really well. She had a wonderful life. She accomplished a lot. She made a lot of friends. And she did it all, in many cases, it was not easy for her. The early part of her life was actually quite difficult. Tuberculosis was quite a tough thing in her family. Her mother and father both had it. Her father died when she was 5. When she was 5 years old. She was in a ward for several years when she was in her early years, then later in her teens. So she didn't graduate from high school until she was 22 years old. And she was a graduate of Cass Tech. But I'm getting ahead of things. Some of the people at this table over here, and Peggy, if you could say something in particular, so Peggy was almost like my mom's sister. The family is so close, and you know, such a wonderful, a continued loving, wonderful family. We're always enjoying family events. And let's see here. I'll just walk out this microphone to you. You have to come up.
Hello, I'm Peggy Clements, and JoAnn and I were first cousins. Our mothers were sisters, and both our moms had TB. And my mom was always so concerned that we might get it, and we always had to go down and have a chest X-ray every year. And but praise the Lord, I never did get it. Aunt Jo JoAnn's mom was at Mayberry Sanitarium when I think I was about 5, and so JoAnn came to live with us during that period of time. I think I was 5 or 6, but I remember the neat things that JoAnn would do when she did live with us. Whenever we got sick, we would. Did you say something about the mic? No. Oh. Whenever we would get sick, JoAnn would make a tent in our bed. She would take a mop handle, our broom handle, and prop up the sheet, and we would bring all kinds of things in this little twin bed. It was amazing the fun we had in those beds when we were sick. She was also very creative, as you all can see all around the building, but I think I was in about 7th grade, and she was over visiting, and she looked in my closet and she said, "Would you like me to put some outfits together?" And I said, "Sure." So she picked out outfits for 2 weeks of my clothing, of things I would have never thought of putting together. And I was so excited. It was like I had a whole new wardrobe and hadn't bought a thing. And so it was exciting for me. Another thing I enjoyed was they lived at Parkside. We lived on the east side of Detroit, both of us. And when we would go to visit her, there was a large cement slab out behind the homes, and there were floodlights down onto the slab. And so the children could play till late at night. And I mean, it was just like heaven to be able to play with all these children and to be able to play late at night. I'll never forget that. Then, when I don't know how old I was, still a young girl, one of JoAnn invited us to a neighbor's church. They had a week-long Bible school. They had a contest for the child who brought the most children. The winner would be king or queen for the day and receive many great prizes, even a new bicycle. JoAnn's neighbor won, and it really was exciting for all of us. I mean, a brand new bike at that time was really, really special. I think that it probably was the first time I had heard from the Bible that all of us had sinned and come short of the glory of God, but that God loved us so much that he sent his son to us because he was the only one who could atone for our sins. I didn't ask Jesus to be my Savior then, but when I went to Digby High, I joined the Voice of Christian Youth Club. I think it was, there were about 70 students who used to come on Mondays to meet, and we really had a real special club. When I was in study hall, I started thinking, if Jesus should come today, am I ready? Will I go with him? And then I thought, I know the answer is, why not just do it? So right there in study hall, I just bowed my head and closed my eyes, and I told Laura I was really sorry I was a sinner and that I was kind of running from him, and would he please forgive me and come into my life and be my Lord and Savior. And at that time, of course, he did, and that was thrilling. But I said all that to say I am so grateful that JoAnn invited me to the Bible Club and that I was able to hear the plan of salvation at such a young age. Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Anybody else? I'm thinking now I don't know if we have any friends. Are there any friends from Cass Tech era here? Is anybody that knew, oh wait, there was somebody. I thought I ran into somebody who said that they knew her at Cass Tech. Oh, do you have any stories? Anything you'd care to share? We can take a minute or two. As I said, she went into cast because of the years that she had with tuberculosis. She only, again, if I recall correctly, she was 22 years old when she finally, yeah. Anywhere? Be here? There. Okay. Okay, or over here. Or back.
When I knew JoAnn from high school, we went together. Whoops. Yeah, I knew JoAnn from high school. And we had several people that were just out together. And I can give us this time.
Here, I'll just
We did hang out together a lot. I saw her in Dearborn down at the Soviak Club in Greektown, where we did a lot of dancing of all types. We hung out, we ate together, we were kids together, kids in high school. And I'll always remember her for her creativity. And I remember just fun times sitting and talking, either at the house or by phone for wee hours into the morning. She was just a very good friend, and I saw her through many, many years as she saw me. We went through many things together. And you all know, you've seen the pictures. You've seen the picture with the snake, Susie Snake around her neck. I know Gary Ryan, who did the picture. Actually just saw him this week. So, memories, I could write a book, I think. But you all know that she was a wonderful person, and we're going to miss her. And we'll always think of her for the love and caring that she brought to all of us.
Because after that, we got to the Wayne State years and the famous, if not infamous, Wayne State Ski Club. A fine representative now with us, the person of Loretta.
Hello everyone. I'm very happy to tell you about my experiences with JoAnn and Eddie. I first met Eddie and JoAnn when I was going to Wayne University, and I joined the ski club. And believe it or not, JoAnn was the ski queen for the metropolitan Detroit area, and she did not ski. But she was so charming. She won everybody and got votes from everybody from all the ski areas of Detroit. Our friendship with JoAnn and Eddie continued through the years, and in fact, we were almost neighbors with JoAnn and Eddie. I had 3 sons. JoAnn and Eddie had 2 sons. They grew up together. They were playmates. They went to high school together, which was wonderful. And we always tried to gather our old gang of skiers together at our home. And of course, JoAnn and Eddie always came late. They always came, and because they were just such charming and wonderful people, I really didn't mind that at all. And as a surprise, I had a surprise 50th birthday. JoAnn presented a birthday gift to me, which I will always remember. She, at that time, was doing belly dancing and Eastern dancing. She put on her beautiful costume and danced for me and for everyone else who was at my home. It was lovely. And some of the pictures that you see here today were taken at my home. We continued our friendship through the years, and sad to say on my part, I never listened to JoAnn's radio program. And every time I saw her, she would say, "Loretta, did you listen to my show?" I said, "No, I didn't do that." And only one other little thing I wanted to tell you. This might not have been true of JoAnn, but I swore that the only color she ever wore was black. And she said, "Oh, no, I've got other outfits." Well, I don't remember seeing her in anything but black. And when Edric was born, I made a black baby outfit for her.
There's so many stories. The next, the next person I'd like to call is J Morton, because well, there was a period. Well, Jay's walking up here. Just briefly say, she did have a period where she went through, did the belly dancing. We didn't find too many other folks back from the belly dancing era who stayed in touch with her. The Detroit story lead. Oh, I forgot the story lead. Maybe you should sit down. No. So then Roseann can talk about the stories.
Okay. Well, yes, it's absolutely true that her storytelling work as a professional was really before she came back to Henry Ford Community College, as it was called then, in the early 90s, because as a way to further improve, although her abilities in storytelling were already very good and very professional. But in the early 90s, she came to Henry Ford College for classes with our premier speech teacher, Dr. Eileen Sundstrom, who already had a competitive group that toured all over the country winning awards in competition for storytelling, also known as interpretive reading. And so she took those selected classes with Dr. Sundstrom and actually toured herself, helping to win awards for the college and herself. And it was in that situation at the college where I was the head of performing arts department, including speech, in the early 90s, that I first met her as part of Dr. Sundstrom's group, and she expressed interest in maybe being a DJ, another sort of vocal profession. And since she already had superior skills with her voice, I encouraged that, and she began with us, I think it was about 1992 or so, and took over a world music show that was in need of a DJ at the time. And about a year or so later, a blues music show DJ had just started that format with our station, and he decided to do a different kind of show, and so she took that over and we expanded it to her Friday slot, which continues today on Fridays from 2 to 6 o'clock as being local blues. We also have another 10 hours of DJs, many of them here tonight. They're also doing blues shows. It is our second largest format, our multi-formatted station program. JoAnn was absolutely the best kind of volunteer staff member. She was not only a DJ, she was also, right from the beginning, the blues music director, which means she took on the task of acquiring and listening to 15 to 20 blues albums, brand new albums every week, and then making sure they got played, either on her show or someone else's. She also raised, through blues concerts for WHFR, probably about $20,000 over 10 years to help us stay on the air. She knew just about every blues artist, old and new, and they came to her show on Fridays regularly to either perform live or to sit down and talk, sometimes unannounced, just showing up. And she was always very great. Thank you. Boy, we get everything here. Always very great with everyone. In fact, she was an amazing person. As many of you know, she never said anything bad about anybody. Never heard that. Some people she might not have liked, but she never said anything directly critical or nasty. She was not that sort of person at all. And it was a joy. I was her producer in the studio with her, helping her do her show, because she never learned how to type, also known as keyboarding. And so I was doing the computer-based things for her in the last 5 years that she was on the air. So she told me plenty of stories, and that's what she did. And she shared those about blues artists, and blues music in Detroit during her show. And that's why it was such a great show for almost, I think it was almost 24 years that she did that blues show for us. Hope those of you that did listen to it, were very entertained. Just having this one here. Thanks. Thank you.
Where's Roseann in the room?
1988, I went to up at the ski lodge area for brain camp. And at brain camp, we did all kinds of crazy things and tried to find out what our own gift was. And they told me that we all had to find it. We could find it through creatures or through weather. There were just ways. And so I decided that I was going to be a storyteller and that was something that I could give as a gift. And I would learn the stories. So when I got home, I went to the library and I said, how do you become a storyteller? And she said, oh, I'm a member of the Detroit Story League and we meet on Saturdays, the third Saturday of every month. We bring a sandwich, we have lunch, and we tell stories. She said, be here, I'll take you to the meeting. So JoAnn and I attended our first meetings separately together. And that day, we were both introduced. You had to attend 3 meetings, and then you were elected to be a member if you so chose. And we both, obviously, were very excited about our membership. And we began storytelling together. And we would lay awake in bed at night. Well, I was in bed. JoAnn never went to bed. And tell stories to each other on the phone. Oh, I found this one. I found that one. Oh, we're going to tell here. Well, if you tell that one, I better tell this one. Oh, I can't tell that one. And this just would go on for hours. And JoAnn and I would share our stories. And we went to, she introduced me to her love of music and the blues shows. And we started going to various blues shows together. And we found out early on that JoAnn and I had something important in common. And that turned out to be that we learned somehow that we both were friends of Mary Jane and had been for quite a while. And so in this very straight place that we were at, churches, schools, libraries, then there would be the nighttime when we would go to the bars and we would have our backstage passes and we would have a whole nother JoAnn and Roseann show that we would get to do together. And it was wonderful fun. And at the very end, my spouse of many years has multiple sclerosis, and I have a little garden of medical marijuana for him. It does wonderful things without eating up his internal organs. And I offered to provide relief, any that I was able to JoAnn. And so she was my patient for medical marijuana when she died. And I was able to give that gift back to her that we had shared since 1988 and maybe help her feel a little better at her last times too. So the stories were wonderful and changed both of our lives, I think.
Thank you, Roseann. Roseann is a very dear friend, and yes, in the medical, actually, as I mentioned, especially the last 2-3 months of my mother's life, she was in quite a lot of chronic pain. There was very little that would actually help her. All other painkillers, all opioids, all synthetics, all other things, just really didn't do anything for her. And some of the medicine Roseann was able to provide actually helped her quality of life quite a lot. It really took a fair amount of the edge off the pain, and it made her able to stay living in her house and still have a pretty decent life toward the end. So it was really very thankful to Roseann for that. Actually, it really helped. Hey, that's an upbeat topic. Mr. Donald J. Middle initial Morton.
Just like the burden of it. Nobody has mentioned the annual Halloween parties that Ed and JoAnn used to throw. But they were wonderful. One of the problems was you could not come through the front door without a costume. And if you tried that, JoAnn would march upstairs and put you in a costume. And so my wife, who was quite a bit younger, but she was also kind of creative, one year we did a lot of different things, and some worked and some didn't. Frank and Gail showed up one year with really great costumes, and Frank, they were dice. And Frank blew the whole thing by wearing his wingtip blue shoes, which of course being the GM exec that he was, most of us spotted him right away. But anyway, my wife decided to make herself up as a homeless bag lady. And she did a yeoman's job on it. So I went ahead of her, and people asked, "Where's your wife?" And I said, well, I made some lame excuse for why she wasn't coming. And about 10 minutes later, the bag lady showed up. And I hadn't really noticed the final touches, but it was so well done that nobody spotted her. And she wouldn't talk. Because of course, if you start talking, people figure out they recognize your voice. So she had a dirty old brown bag, and as she stumbled through the house, she kept picking up. JoAnn had wonderful, I call them trinkets and trash, but they're, keepsakes, and all through the house. And she would walk up furtively and look around like, of course she knew people were watching, and she would take some item and drop it in the bag. And then she would wander through and get something to eat, and then she'd come back, and people would kind of talk to her, and she just mumbled. She'd go over to an end table and pick up something and look it over and drop it in the bag. Well, this went on for a very short time before somebody, JoAnn, I don't know who that is, they're taking all your stuff. So JoAnn came over, and I'm watching from afar, and took her by the arm, and said, I'll never forget, somebody here just mentioned, she never said a bad thing about anybody. And she never said a bad thing about the bag lady. But dear, those are my things. I've got to have those back. And she would reach in and take them out, put them back on the shelf. And still, she didn't figure out who my wife was yet. So as soon as my wife would let a short time pass, we go back and start over in another room. And poor JoAnn, I think we probably added at least 10 years to her life expectancy. But Merle finally did fess up, and everybody, I think everybody got a big kick out of it. I know I did, and Ed did, and I'm not sure about JoAnn. So anyway, I just thought you might share a lighthearted story like that.
Any other lighthearted, light-minded, bubble-headed, upbeat, off-kilter, going twice, going 3 times. Where is Steve? Steve. Mr. Soviak, where are you?
President Soviak to this day.
Chairman Soviak, your presence is needed for enlightening us of Korczynska's accomplishments.
Hi everyone. I had an opportunity to drive JoAnn around for the last 2 years of her life. She was having a hard time getting around, and we did share a whole lot of stories. Nothing, spectacular, except we talked a lot. And I never had a friend who was older than me like that. She was like 22 years older than me. And it was interesting. And she would tell me all kinds of stories and call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. And me and Howard Glazer hold the record for 3 o'clock in the morning conversations with JoAnn. But she could tell me some cool stuff. She said one time she went to California, and she said all the time she was in Detroit, the famous coachman was always bragging about knowing John Lee Hooker, but nobody believed him. And she went to California one time, and she went to the Oakland Blues Festival, and she got backstage and she got to meet John Lee Hooker. And she said, I'm from Detroit. And the first words out of Hooker's mouth were, how's the coachman? That's the first story. And, you know, like I said, we got to talk a lot. She was a judge in competitions at the Detroit Blues Challenge at Callahan's. I made sure she got to all the events she wanted to go to, and it was a lot of fun for me. So she was a good friend, and I miss her dearly, as I'm sure all you guys do. So that's all I really have to say about my friendship with JoAnn. We'll turn it back over to them.
Yeah, Maggie, you can start coming up. I will just say also, you know, she is, I think most of you probably got to see the beautiful display Barb put together out for all of JoAnn's memorabilia. There you'll see there's the Detroit Blues Society Lifetime Achievement Award, which she and, correct me if I'm wrong, she and the famous coachman are the only two recipients who are DJs. I think so. Everybody else. Yeah, but I think it. Yeah. But so she also there's the mayor of the city gave her an award. She used to be at the Detroit Music Awards. She used to hand out the Blues Artist of the Year award downtown on the stage.
She was the presenter at the WHFR Award.
That's right. Yes, thank you, Beth. Thank you, Beth. Beth, did you want to say before we head out? Something great. My wife, Beth, who's been here with me.
Well, so I've known JoAnn since 1998, which was just before Eddie and I got married. And, you know, a lot of people have the kind of stereotypical mother-in-law relationship, and as Ed is always quick to point out, my mother-in-law loved my cooking. So I just wanted you to know that. And also, toward the very end of her life, at the last few days when she was in the hospital, at one point she looked up. She was kind of in and out, saying things. Sometimes it meant something, sometimes it didn't really seem to, but she looked up at one point and said, Beth, are you losing weight? And I'm like, she's fine, you guys. She's gonna be okay. Sadly, anyway. So yeah, she was a wonderful mother-in-law, but was, as we've noted in the last few months, she was the kind of person who was very, very open to people. She accepted anybody as they were. Come as you are, JoAnn would accept you. She was just, that was the way she was. And she ended her radio station by saying, please keep an open mind, before she said, I leave you with a message of peace and love. So she had a couple of sign-offs. But anyway, so, but with things, and I don't know if you guys know her that well, but with things, she was often very particular, that things had to be a very certain way. And so I used to joke with her that she ended her radio show with, please keep an open mind. But if I brought home the wrong kind of butter, there was hell to pay, so. But anyway, she was a wonderful mother-in-law, and very dear to me, and I'm so happy that so many people came out to pay their respects to her and to celebrate her life in this way. And you guys are awesome, so thank you so much for being here. And I'll hand the mic back over to you.
Professional comedian. Still fun. I don't just have to say that. Howard and I actually, that's another long story. Howard and I share some karma through strange Detroit connections also. And another fantastic musician taking the stage now, ladies and gentlemen, Maggie McCabe and Howard Glazer.
All right.
I want to thank Steve for asking me to tune into. JoAnn was amazing, and from day one she supported me. And every blues event I went to, I saw that iconic, beautiful, long black braid. And I didn't know who this woman was, and finally I got to know her and knew she was just as beautiful as her appearance. She was an amazing supporter of local artists. And she played my acapella group Loretta on the air. She had me on her show. So I decided we're going to do a song that was written by a Michigander. It's the blues version of a very famous pop tune written by Michigan's own Del Shannon.